Today, September 10th, 2025, a date which will not live in infamy. I bought a bottle of whiskey, and I did a bad imitation of Franklin Roosevelt. I was seriously paraphrasing his speech to Congress on December 8th, 1941, in which he asked for a declaration of war against Japan. A very quick civics lesson, because even people who say they're conservative and have a better understanding of civics than, at least that's the rule. There are obviously going to be exceptions, but who have a better understanding of civics than liberals, as a general rule, do. Even conservatives seem to think the president declares war, and that's not the case. But that's a digression. I bought a bottle of whiskey. Now, for those of you who have been drinking whiskey a while, a bottle is not something to brag about. But I've had some necessary expenses, fairly large expenses, over the past 2 or 3 weeks, and so I've focused on them and haven't bought anything in that time. And in that same period, I've emptied a couple of bottles, and so today I went and bought something. And before I show you what it is, I'm going to mention that this is a review, not a sipping and talking, no matter what it seems like so far. And I don't usually do a review when I open the bottle. I've learned over the past 4 years, on the 20th, in 10 days, at the time I record this. By the time you see it, what I'm talking about may be long past. But on the 20th of September, it will be 4 years since I first tried whiskey, thinking that I was not going to like it. Well, I was wrong. And everybody who knows me is saying, yes, we know you were wrong. Big, fat, hairy deal. What else is new? I like to say I'm right. I've always been right. I'll always be right until I disagree with my wife. And after 46 years, I'm very good at saying yes, dear. But the bottle. Well, now let me tilt it so you can read it better. Move it back. This is Abasolo, el Whisky de México. This is a Mexican corn whiskey. It's made from 100% cacahuacintle corn. And if you can't say cacahuacintle, even with an American accent, never mind a Spanish one, not a problem. They take the corn and they put it through, and I'll see if I can say this word, nixtamalization. It's the same process of soaking in lye that you use to make hominy. They then dry it and grind it up to make the mash, except for a small percentage, and I don't know just what the percentage is, which they don't nixtamalize the corn. Instead, they sprout it, dry it, and grind it up, and it serves the same basic function in a 100% corn whiskey that sprouted barley does, where it's in the recipe. It provides extra sugar, but not... Let me not say that, or let me take it back. I've already said it. I can't swear to the extra sugar part. I think so. I think that in the sprouting process, and I'm going on memory of what I've heard and read, the process converts starch to sugar, and then you have to stop the process before the growth uses up all the sugar. But it does create enzymes which help the yeast eat the sugar, which is where the alcohol comes from. Alcohol is a waste product of yeast eating. Now I've seen pictures of labels with the whole thing in Spanish. It's from down in the state of Oaxaca in Mexico. I don't know the city. And by the way, that corn I mentioned, cacahuacintle, it only grows at, if I remember right, an altitude of 7,000 feet and higher. It's an ancient variety that the Indians developed before the Europeans ever showed up. But here it says, ancestral corn whiskey, nixtamalized according to ancient traditions, copper pot distilled, they use all pot stills, alma de la tierra in this arc here, which means something like soul of the land or soul of the earth, spirit of the land, something like that. You can't always translate word for word as succinctly as the original. 100% ancestral corn. Hecho en México means made in Mexico, and crafted using the finest cacahuacintle corn cultivated over generations for its distinctive flavor, resulting in a rich and smooth whiskey. They make it at the Destilería y Bodega Abasolo, Estado de México. Now, I would say Estado de México means state of Mexico, but I'm not sure that that's the meaning here. I think there's an idiom here that I don't know. I don't speak fluent Spanish, just some. It is 86 proof, which normally I would not drink, but with foreign whiskeys, I'll drink under 90 proof. On the back, and I don't know how well you're going to see this, but that is a picture of their distillery. And there's a lot more stuff that I could go through, but let's get to the whiskey. I have not opened this bottle, so I'm turning it to try to find the perforations. There they are. I hate seals. I wish they all came off that easily. They don't, which is one reason I hate them. We need a glass. We have a glass. It's a Glencairn. And it's not a Glencairn. It's a Glencairn. It's a two-syllable word, not three. Let's pull the cork out of this puppy. Sounded nice if you're into the sound of it. And I'll be able to see the level. You have surely noticed, just from what's barely showing, it's a very pale whiskey. Now this is from Mexico. Every single time I have to scoot over. You'd think I'd get it right someday. And you'd probably be wrong. I would think I'd get it right someday. I haven't so far. It's a corn whiskey. Now, it's from Mexico, so it doesn't have to follow American rules. But the rules for corn whiskey are... Just a second. Hello. Video. You'll pardon the interruption. That was my wife, and she is more important than this video. And I'm not going to restart it because I've already opened it. And a little flake of something got into the whiskey. I know exactly where it came from. I'm not going to worry about it, but I did notice it. Anyway, it's from Mexico, so it doesn't have to follow American rules. But the rules for corn whiskey are that it has to be from at least 80% corn. This is American corn whiskey, the American rules. And it has to age either in new uncharred barrels or used charred barrels. And so they use, and they don't have to, being American, but they use used bourbon barrels to age their whiskey, and so you don't get much of a color. The age, well, there's no age statement, but from this color I would say it's not but a couple of years old. Being Mexican, not American, it doesn't have to follow the rules of aging, and it doesn't say straight whiskey, and that's an American designation which requires an age statement if it's between 2 and 4 years. If it's under 2, it can't be straight whiskey. So this is not going to follow American rules. Oh, and I forgot to mention earlier when I was saying that I don't normally do a review when I first open a bottle, but the previous bottle I had, this is my second, the previous bottle, it remained remarkably the same all the way down, so I'm going to go ahead and do it on the first glass. And the first thing I notice is some sourness. And most corn whiskey gives me a sour note. The only one I've ever had that gives me no sourness at all is Balcones Baby Blue. Something about corn whiskey lends itself to a sour note. The question is there little enough sourness that it's tolerable? And it is, because when I keep on nosing it, I'm getting some honey sweetness. I'm getting some graininess in there, and as I said, I think it's probably a young whiskey. And I was thinking of something else. Oh, because it's 86 proof, I'm not really getting the spike of alcohol in my nose as I generally do when I put my nose right in it. There's vanilla there. Well, it's not a complex nose. You've got the sourness, which, as you begin to pick up other notes, or as I begin to pick up other notes, fades into a minor detail. I've got the honey, I've got the corn, I've got, what else? I said something else and I can't remember what. One thing that I'm not getting, and it surprises me, is a peppery note like you get if you've ever smelled, you can just pick up the package and smell it, Abuelita Mexican hot chocolate mix. And on the last bottle I got that. Now I'm getting it, and maybe the power of suggestion, and maybe it's just as the whiskey in the glass is opening up. But that is the same nose now that I used to get from my other bottle, and now I'll tell you what it tastes like. There's not much of a mouthfeel. 86 proof. You're not going to get a lot of mouthfeel. But immediately a lot of honey. Not strong honey, but very definite honey. At 86 proof, I hate to phrase it this way, but I don't know any other way to say it. It's kind of watered down honey, or maybe really light honey. You know, some honey is dark and dense and rich. Cactus honey's dark. Alfalfa honey tends to be lighter. This might be alfalfa honey. I'll get that floating thing out of there. It's nothing dangerous. It did not come out of the bottle. I don't know how it transferred from the inside of my backpack to the bag that this was in, to the bottle, to the glass, but it did. Again, on the palate, it's not very complex. I'm getting that honey. I'm getting corn, which you would expect from a young 100% corn whiskey. And I get a little bit of red pepper on my tongue. Now, generally, you wouldn't expect corn by itself to give you much pepper. But remember, they're using used bourbon barrels, and even with a lot of the components of the charred wood having gone into the bourbon, you're still going to get some of that wood influence on this, even as a young whiskey. And that's where that pepper is coming from. On the finish, I'm actually getting some oak melding into chocolate. There's some red pepper mixed in with the oak and chocolate. Some sweetness it begins as a narrow strip in the center of my tongue and runs backwards as a strip down into my throat. And that's where the sweetness is. It's weird how your taste buds analyze the contents of a whiskey, and sometimes it will be very specific where you're getting a particular note. Sometimes you get a note through your whole mouth. Sometimes it's just one spot on your tongue, the front, or it'll be along the sides. You might get it on your gums even. That was just, if this is my tongue, it was in a strip going back like that. Very interesting. As I said, I've had one previous bottle of Abasolo, but it's been a long while since I sat down and analyzed it. This is not a very complex whiskey. I've already mentioned that about the nose. I've mentioned it about the palate. It's not complex on the finish either. But it is a pleasant whiskey. And this bottle seems to have less sourness than the previous one. I got it at first on the nose, but it seems to have dissipated. This is not something you're going to win a contest with. It's not something Fred Minnick will rave about. And if there's anybody who's an expert on analyzing whiskey, it's Fred Minnick. His videos do nothing for me, but I absolutely respect the man's knowledge of the subject. And I also respect him for his military service. You may not know, he was a combat photographer in the Army, was actually under fire. I don't believe he ever received a wound. I don't know what decorations he might have received. But he was under fire in Iraq as a combat photographer, and that takes guts. More guts than I expect I have. I've never been in that situation. I'm happy about that. But while I'm on Fred Minnick, let me briefly tell you something about him. He's an Okie. I'm a Texan. That makes it tough for me to respect him. The Texans and Okies don't care for each other, none at all. He doesn't sound like an Okie, by the way. He sounds like a Yankee. I don't know what part of Oklahoma he's from. He might be from up north where they butt up against Kansas. But when he came back from Iraq, he was dealing, as so many people have in wars from the beginning of history till now, from what we call post-traumatic stress syndrome. Stress that comes after a traumatic experience. And one of the ways he dealt with that was finding something he could focus his attention on, and that was whiskey. And he became a world expert on bourbon. And I suspect he knows quite a lot about other kinds of whiskey as well. Fred Minnick will never write rave reviews about this, but it's good. It's simple, but it's good. I got this at Total Wine. Cost me $43.99, and of course it's imported. So what might be a $20 bottle if they made it in the States is $44 coming from Mexico. And given that foreign origin, I think that's a fair price. This is my second favorite corn whiskey. I've had several. I've had this. I've had a New Mexico Blue, which they make right here in Albuquerque. I've had Longhorn corn whiskey from Texas. I've had Balcones Baby Blue and True Blue. Both the same thing. One is just higher proof than the other. The True Blue, the high proof. And I've had Mellow Corn. And it's not Mellow Corn. It's Mellow Corn. Mellow Corn. Mellow Corn is my third favorite. Balcones Baby Blue. This, Mellow Corn. So, where are we? 23 minutes, even with the interruption, which I don't begrudge at all. I love my wife. We're still not bad on time. So, I'll move that out of the way so I can reach the button. Since this is Mexican, salud.